In a dark room, a writer is putting in his last bit of effort to finish his story. But he won't be able to finish it. The writer coughs up blood and collapses on the spot. When the writer opens his eyes, he finds a man sitting in a dark space. "I'm Azrael," said the man. "Are you Death?" The writer asked calmly, though the man noticed he was trembling. "No. I'm your fan," Azrael replied. "You might not know it, but your work is a beautiful piece of art that will shake the world. It's too precious to leave unfinished." Azrael shifted his posture and said, "Now, let's make a deal. If you want, I can postpone your death." The writer asks, "Instead, you must want something from me, right?" The Azrael watched the writer for a moment before replying, "Your dream." The old writer gasped as he suddenly woke up. Seeing his clothes soaked in blood, he felt his own death looming. Yet, he was definitely still alive. This meant that the deal with Azrael had been sealed. "You, being immortal, must create works forever. It's because I want to keep reading your stories." "But," Azrael says calmly, "since your life belongs to Death, I had to give up something else to take your life from him. From now on, you'll never sleep again, and your dreams, the creations of your mind, will belong to Death. And I get immortality and eternal creation." The writer murmurs, reflecting on the deal. The old writer suddenly kicks the door open and rushes outside. I'm alive," the writer shouted with overwhelming joy. And at that moment, the writer jerks awake in bed, quickly checking his body for any injuries, but he's fine. "So, he saved me from a moment of death?" The writer feels an overwhelming surge of energy in his chest. He suddenly wants to pour this energy into his writing. The writer passionately pours his heart into his work, putting in every ounce of his energy. He wasn't tired even without sleep. The deal with the demon had incredible power. "These are the most beautiful moments of my life," the writer said. Time passed, and the work was finally complete. Suddenly, a thought struck him. "Your work is a beautiful piece of art that will shake the world. Is the work in my hands really that kind of masterpiece?" His struggle continued. After all, he couldn't die or sleep anyway. The writer became even more obsessed with perfecting his work. Infinite time didn't bring him peace, it made him greedy. A year passed, and his thoughts consumed him more and more. Yet, he couldn't stop thinking. "Please, make it stop," he cries, hitting his head in agony. Unable to sleep, he had no way to stop his thoughts. The writer then runs to the rooftop and throws himself off. But of course, he was rejected by Death as well. An eternity without sleep was a life without rest. The demon's single word, masterpiece, drove him to never stop. The writer wanted to stop, but then one idea came to mind. It was probably the only way. The writer calmly recalled his pact with Azrael. "In exchange for taking your life back from Death, you'll give your sleep and dreams to Death. And I get to enjoy your work forever. If the writer doesn't create any works, the contract doesn't hold." "You're not going to create any more works?" Azrael asked, appearing suddenly. "The contract will be voided then." "Even so, you won't create any more works?" "Yes." "Then from this moment, the contract is terminated, and you will lose your life." The writer squeezed his eyes shut, but nothing happened. "Why isn't anything happening?" "Your life has been handed over to Death. And your dreams have returned to you. Don't you get it? This is the dream of your soul. I never wanted your work in the first place. It's your story of eternal torment, trapped in an unending dream without life, that I desired."